Welcome back, everybody. Another beautiful day here sitting at the Bellevue, Ohio tank wash. I have something that will be on a trailer loaded later on tonight and delivering tomorrow morning, so I have some time to talk about a topic that is directly in response to a question that somebody asked on a previous video. So if you have a question, I am more than willing to answer. I will try to answer everybody's questions in the comments. If there's something like this that is maybe a little bit longer of an explanation than just a simple couple of typed words, I'm not the greatest, texter, typer. So that's why this is my format, is to put stuff on YouTube. So we're going to talk about how leasing works is basically the bottom line. And that wasn't really the question. The question that was asked was, how can a first-year driver afford a truck payment? And really, it's the simple answer that I'll give you is, you have to think of leasing. If you don't understand how leasing works, I can see, and you throw out $1,000 a week as a truck payment. Well, my truck payment is actually $844 a week. And I'm going to go through what I'm going to do to explain it, because the only way it made sense to me was to take my settlement. And that's one of the first things you'll come to understand. First of all, I do not technically work for Prime. I am self-employed. Prime sends a settlement, which means I earn revenue. This truck generates revenue. And then I have expenses. I have things that I'm responsible for. Fuel, I have the truck payment, permits, fees, tolls, all that sort of thing that gets taken out of the revenue that this truck generates. And again, to really understand how it works, I have to just kind of break down my settlement sheet, because I don't get a paycheck because I'm not an employee. I settle up at the end of the week. The truck generated this amount of revenue. Payroll is Tuesday to Tuesday. It's payroll cutoff. The week is 4 p.m. Central Time on Tuesday. So it starts at 4 p.m., 4:01, I suppose, technically, and then it goes 7 days until 4 o'clock the following Tuesday. So all the revenue generated in that 7-day period then gets put in one column, and then you have everything expense-wise that's taken out, the truck payment. And again, the only way to really show how that works is to look at a settlement sheet. So we're going to do that, and I'm going to also show you, just as an example, and I said this in my lease versus, so this is kind of also a lease versus company video, but I don't want it to, but I just want to show you for example, here's how it worked this week for me, and I'm taking last week's settlement. I'm doing this on a Sunday. This is, if you go to last Tuesday's cutoff at 4 p.m., you get your settlement emailed to you on Thursday morning. It's available, and the way payroll works at Prime, they'll load it onto your ID card. It's called a Com Data card, which you can get a Com check, which is a special kind of check you write out. You can get a cash advance through a truck stop, or you can have it direct deposited. Prime will do that for you. If you elect for the direct deposit, which I do, that is not available on Thursday. That gets direct deposited into your account on Friday. So, now that we've got that out of the way, let's go over and take a look at the settlement sheet. All right, guys, this is my settlement sheet. If you flip through this is about 18 or 19 pages. So it can be quite daunting to take a look at. I have, marked out some personal information. That's all it is. It's by no means am I trying to hide anything. It's just I don't want, bank account information and account numbers and things like that on there for everybody to see. So, not trying to hide anything by any stretch. So, here's what we're going to do. We have, and to show you that this is a current settlement, I'm taping this on May 22nd. This is a settlement from May 18th of this year. That just happens to be the time they printed it off at 9:14 at night. And then this is the revenue section. So this is the money that I generated for that 7-day period. Each one of these is a trip. So just to look at one, here's the first trip we have. And for that particular day, now the Easy Pass toll, that's a reimbursement of $6.10 from an overpay from a previous week. And then we have our first trip. And the first entry on each line is the fuel surcharge. So for this trip, the fuel surcharge was $16 even. This trip was Decatur, Indiana. Which again, that's where I work out of the dedicated account, going to Macomb, Ohio. It says I started in Defiance, Ohio, because that would have been where I delivered the previous day. So, total miles, come over here, 128, and it breaks it down into loaded miles, empty miles, total miles, and then here is the trip revenue. Grab my pen for a pointer, sorry about that. So, trip revenue equals $354.72. Well, that's not what I get. I get 71% of that dollar amount for running that load. So for going 128 miles, I earned $251.85 plus $16 as the fuel surcharge. So that equaled $1.96.8 per mile. Similar thing here. You can see previous start point was Macomb, Ohio, going to Decatur, Indiana, and then going to Northeast Pennsylvania. This one's a little further, 372 miles. Revenue $1,483.42. So my share was $1,053.23 plus the $46.50 fuel surcharge. Fuel surcharge, if you don't know, just very quickly, started when diesel started getting up to $4, $5, $6 a gallon, and it was a way that the companies factored in so that guys weren't losing all the money. So it's a percentage of the fuel that gets paid for by the people who are purchasing the products. So you're never gonna, I shouldn't say never, you're getting a percentage back. Now what you get back as far as how much you spend on fuel all depends on your fuel economy. And this is one of the reasons that Prime preaches fuel economy. Now, can you go 372 miles on $46.50 in fuel? Probably not. But there are other loads that do better on that fuel surcharge. So at any rate, you go down, and again, here's Decatur, Indiana to Morristown, Indiana, Decatur to Bradley, Illinois, Decatur to Napoleon, Ohio, Decatur to London, Kentucky. And that's the end of the week. So, 6 trips. Now, for those of you who are saying, well, 6 trips, that's a lot of trips in 1 week. Each one of these took 1 day. I took a day in the middle of the week off. My daughter had a school event. So I took Wednesday night. Was it Wednesday night? Took a Wednesday night off. I also did not work on a Saturday. So I did 6 trips in basically 5.5 days is how it worked this particular week. Here's the total miles. 1,813 total miles. This is just a breakdown of loaded miles versus empty miles. And here's the total revenue that my truck generated this particular week. $3,185.03 of total revenue generated by my truck. So, that's total revenue for 1 week on 1,813 miles. Here's the total miles on the lease to date. That's what LTD stands for. Lease to date of generated 73,528 miles off of this particular truck. Now you have the reimbursement section. And these are things that are reimbursed that the company has either paid for or that I will be billed for later. The way Prime works it in Tanker is they reimburse me for the tank washes. So 6 trips, 6 tank washes, all out of Decatur, Indiana. And so that's $1,009.86. So far you've got a little less than $4,200 in revenue coming to the truck. Go on to page 2, and now we finish up revenue. Now we go to deductions. Now we're going to start taking money away from that $4,300. Let's see. About that far down. These are all fixed cost items. So you've got the APU rental at $70 a week. Accounting services. I happen to use Prime's accounting service. Easy Pass, fuel card, there's a charge for ComData. The imaging, to scan the images, the federal highway tax, licenses and permits. Deferred balance, the first week of your lease. What they do is they do not charge you the first week of your lease. They defer that. And then they break it down into payments of $18.79. So the first week you don't pay, but you pay it in $18.79 segment. So I still owe $263.06 on that deferred payment. And then here's my truck payment of $844. And then owner occupancy account, $26 comes out. I mentioned before in my video on the 3-in-1 airline that they broke up payments on the 3-in-1 airline. I had $588 total. They broke that up into $50 segments. So here is the breakdown. So that's not a fixed cost. That is considered a variable cost. And then you come to the fuel. So I fueled 3 times. You get the dollar amount that you paid at the pump, and then this is Prime's discount for purchasing in volume. So you come to total deductions, $2,890.87. So we were at $4,300. All of a sudden you're taking away $2,890. Here they go through, and again, here's going to be your tire fund. You put a certain amount per mile into a tire fund so that when you get new tires, 200,000 miles into having your truck, you're not going to all of a sudden have to pay for 6 brand new tires at $800 a pop. You also pay your excess mileage fee, and that gets reimbursed. If there's anything left in these accounts when you finish your lease, that gets returned to you after they take out any damages to the truck. Down here, this talks about the guarantee. Here's my current miles. My revenue is $1.62.8 per mile. The actual for the life of the lease is $1.49.9 a mile. And they guarantee that over the life of the lease, you're going to make $1.15 per mile. So they average all that out, and I was ahead. So there you go. $1,258.70 is what I brought home. There's a little bit more of that particular information, but again, direct deposit to bank. I'll get to that information. $1,259.05 on taking 2 days off in 1 week. Now, one thing that I did, and I'll come back to that information in a moment. I want to talk about company drivers in a moment, but I want to show you the rest of the settlement. Just for your information, this is a running balance income and expense balance. And again, you go through total revenue. There's that $3,100. Here's my total revenue for the lease. Over $118,000 generated this on this lease thus far. Again, it goes all the way through. So this is a good piece of information. It's got every bit of money that's been generated and taken out, not only of the current week, the current quarter, and then the lease to date. This happens to be, I'm one page ahead of myself. This is now all the tolls that I went through. So, went through I-95. New York State has a volume discount. And the Pennsylvania line on I-90. So, there's how much tolls cost. This week was $21.31. Tolls are not your typical $1.50 in a truck. They're a lot higher. Now, what I was going to say, this is the end of a quarter. So this takes into account miles and gallons used in each state that I have driven in the quarter. And they do all this for you. And they figure out the IFTA tax, and if you've paid enough, and if you've paid too many. So that's all the information there. Or sorry, that's the end of a month, not the end of a quarter. My apologies. Now, the last several pages, in this case it's going to be the last 6. In case you wonder, am I being gypped by Prime? This is a copy of the bill sent from Prime to, from Bungie Decatur to Hearthside Foods in Macomb for the flat rate of the shipment of the product. So they'll give you that information and you can do your own math. Am I getting 71% of that figure? So that's the last 6 pages, and I'm not going to show you each individual one. Now, let's go back to the last item I'm going to talk about, and that's this page. And so I showed you this last week, $1,259.05. Personally, my wife and I are very cautious. As an independent contractor, I am self-employed, and I have to take out my own taxes. So we take out 30% and put it into a savings account for tax purposes, and we pay taxes quarterly. So we'll take out $377 this week and 72 cents and put it in that savings account. Therefore, after taxes this last week, I made $881.33. Again, that was on 1,813 miles. Now here's my comparison for you. This is the same number of miles, it's just not written out. Prime pays 45 cents per mile for a company tanker driver. I made this caveat, this little notation that said, you're not going to get dispatched on the same thing as a lease driver as you are a company driver. Certainly me being a dedicated driver, I do several short loads as opposed to over-the-road guys who do longer and maybe fewer loads per week. But take each number of miles, multiply it by 45 cents, that's how much each particular load would pay. 1,813 miles would have paid $815.85. Now they're going to do your taxes for you because you are an employee. But if you factor at 30%, that's $244.76. I'm not factoring insurance in at all. Personally, I have insurance through my wife's work, but that would be an additional expense on top. But for the same number of miles, take-home pay after tax for 1,813 miles for a company driver would be $571.09. And once again, you compare that to, there's the take-home as a lease operator. So that's how leasing works. Again, to understand it, personally, I had to be walked through settlement sheets like this. This is, to be honest, a fairly average week. I have had higher weeks. The week before this was a take-home before taxes of about $2,300. I've also had lower weeks. That's why when I say I average about $1,200 to $1,300, this is an average week. It's also why I picked this particular settlement to go through. I didn't want to go through a settlement, you know, the week prior with $2,300 take-home pay and have it be different. Then I had also another week where there was, you know, different things that show up on your settlement that you guys won't see. But this is a pretty standard settlement. And it kind of illustrates how can you afford an $844 truck payment as a first-year driver. Well, that's how, is you generate $3,200 in truck revenue. So bottom line, I end up with about $1,100 in fixed costs. When you add truck payment, all those other fees that I showed you at the beginning of the deductions. And then what I do is I have my variable costs, which is mainly fuel. This is the next trip that I am taking. I keep these sheets for every trip that I do. This is our company trip number. This is where it's picking up in Bellevue, Ohio. It's picking up. It's a preloaded trailer, so somebody's going to load it tonight between 5 o'clock and midnight, and then it's going to Carnegie, Pennsylvania, and has to be there tomorrow morning between 7 and 9 a.m. And here's what they pay me for that. It's about 190 driving miles. So my fuel surcharge is $31.17. The line haul, which is what they call the revenue for the load, $495.54, for total revenue of $526.71. This number down here represents the total amount that I have had for this week, $2,511.83. That's what I've generated from last Tuesday at 4:01 p.m. Central Time. Just note just is that I dropped, when we have these, I have to drop a clean trailer so that they can load something. So that's just a notation of the trailer number that I dropped. And then that just indicates that we're hauling soybean oil. So that's my how does leasing work? How can you afford a $1,000 truck payment, even though it's not really a $1,000 truck payment? But that's a pretty detailed explanation. I could even get further into more details in the settlement, but that's pretty specialized about how these settlements work, how leasing works, and gives you a good idea of how you can make money. Obviously, if this number down here isn't high enough by the end of the week to cover your variable costs and your fixed costs, that's when you don't make money. That's when you can be negative. If you've got $1,100 in fixed costs and then you fuel up 3-4 times, and you know, if you go back to the fuel cost, each time you fuel up, you know, there's $241.85 minus the 42, that's still $200. There's $250 in fuel. There's $170 in fuel. So if you don't cover the fuel plus the fixed costs, that's when you're going to go negative. This video did go very long. It had a lot of information in it though, so I hope that you guys got a lot out of this, how leasing works. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this long video. Appreciate you guys watching. Again, if you want to use my name, I appreciate it. No pressure whatsoever though. Again, my name is the channel name. If you're coming to Prime, I can get a little bit of a bonus out of it if you do throw in my name as someone as a reference on that application. Thanks so much for joining me. Hope you enjoy the videos, and we'll talk to you next week.